All right, seems like a good time to get started, seeing the attendee list numbers leveling out. So I'll just turn on my camera, say hello, ask Vincent and Dave to do the same. Hi, guys. So yeah, we're here live, and we're today announcing a couple of different things. So that's why in the title of the slide here, we see what's new at Squaredup. We are introducing today version 5.5, and Vincent's going to talk to us about what's new and give us some demo. And then we are also introducing something new. We're calling it EAM-X. So many of you are EAM customers, and this is something new, and the X is about extending the capability of EAM. So we'll talk about that on the second half of the webinar as well. So let's dive right into it. And Vincent, you'll get us started by taking us through 5.5.
All right, thank you, Jason. Can you see my screen okay, I guess? Yeah, okay, just go to the next slide. All right, yes, thank you all for joining. Just a reminder, if you would like to post any questions, do that on the chat. And when we finish with 5.5, I'll be happy to answer some questions on the chat. But it was only 2 months ago, actually, when we announced Squaredup 5.4 with a new surface style, the ODBC connections, grid tile improvements, and much more. In fact, as of today, I was looking this morning, 50% of our customers have already upgraded to 5.4, which is really cool. And our engineering team have been super busy working on new features. And today, with Squaredup 5.5, we are continuing to listen to our customers and make improvements that most of you have requested. So starting with some major improvements to the SCOM alert tiles, that's including a new expand panel, the ability to select all and to assign to others. We are going to see a demo very shortly, so I'm not going to spend too much time on screenshots. Next up will be is a feature that lets you adjust the dashboard refresh interval per dashboard, including open access. And we are going to take a look at many more enhancements, such as the ability to switch visualization easily without having to reconfigure a tile, a value formatter on the bar graph, the ability to set open access theme, and much more as well. So let's get right into the demo. So let me switch over. You should be able to see my screen. This is Squaredup for SCOM version 5.5. So what we're going to do first is look at the alert tile enhancements for SCOM. So I'm going to dive right into the out-of-the-box NOC operator dashboard, very popular dashboard used by a lot of customers that gives you an overview of what is happening in your on-prem environments. And at a glance, this is the alert tile, hasn't changed at all at a glance, but the main difference is when you now want to look at your alerts, perhaps there's an alert storm or you've got a flood of alerts, what you really want to do is being able to see what each alert might be about and maybe start to do some correlations. So what we've done is given you the ability of right in the alert tile to expand a panel. So this is an alert, I can expand, I can see some description and a lot more information. If that's enough, I can go to the next one, see what that's all about, description. We also add the context, and if there is some event data as well, we'll make that available to you as well. So it's really just about the ability to stay on one screen, look at all your alerts, dive a little bit deeper, understand what is going on, and take the right action. So when it comes to taking the right action, with 5.4, we introduce filtering. So I can maybe have 15 alerts. I can very quickly sort of filter. I can sort of do some sorting as well. And maybe what I want to do is select all of those alerts, and then I can take the right action. So select all is new as well in 5.5, and then I will be able to do as I can do today, change the resolution state, and a new feature as well. I can assign right in this screen. I can actually assign one or more alerts to other colleagues as well. And lastly, we have got a little button here on the right-hand side. If you can see, actually, can't not on this one because it's not a monitor, this one here, the ability to reset the monitor right within the alert tile. So essentially what we've done is made it easier for you, or given you all the rights and the most popular actions all within one tile. So hopefully you won't have to drill down and open every alert in a new tab. And we believe that's going to be very useful. Again, as I said earlier, there's an alert storm. You need to jump on the action very quickly, and that screen will basically give you all you need to know in one go. Next up, we are going to go into another dashboard. This is a sample dashboard with some sales and business metrics. Now, this the feature improvement here is about the ability to adjust the dashboard refresh interval. And what we've heard from a number of customers is when you use a web API or perhaps a PowerShell script or maybe an SQL query, it can be the case sometimes where the data, the tool you're connecting to, is maybe slow, or maybe the data you're trying to load takes a while, or maybe there is a cost associated to an API. For instance, if you want to get some cost from maybe a cloud API, that might have a cost associated with it. So what we've done, we've given you the ability, if you go to settings per dashboard, the ability to configure the refresh intervals. So the default, as is today, will be 1 minute for every dashboard. But if you want to change that interval, you can do that in increments up to 6 hours. Okay. There may be other cases as well where perhaps you have a service desk dashboard, and maybe actually this dashboard is perhaps has got data that needs to be up to date more often than 1 minute, for instance. And so you also have the ability equally to change the refresh interval to 30 seconds as well. So if we then look at the next improvements I touched on, perhaps one of my favorites, which will be a massive time saver, we believe, and again, based upon feedback from our customers, this is the ability to change a visualization on a tile that you've already configured. So typically today, if I wanted to turn this line graph into, say, maybe a Sparks line or maybe a bar top, and I would essentially have to recreate the tile, go through all the configuration, the scope, the metric, the time frame, and so on and so forth. What we've done is, in most cases, you will be able to easily switch visualization. So here I had a line graph, now I've turned that into a Sparks line, or perhaps what I would prefer is a bar top, and so that should also appear straight away. So you don't have to reconfigure a panel, you can switch visualization. That's been a request from our customers for a long time, and we are really pleased that it's now finally available. And it also, this is a SCOM performance style. It also works with web API, PowerShell, SQL. So if we were to go into another dashboard, maybe back to the service desk dashboard, what I've done here at the bottom of this dashboard, I have a grid tile. And so this is a web API tile showing as a grid because I just wanted to make sure that I can pull the data that I need. Now that I've got the data, what I actually want to do is summarize it maybe into a donut. So again, I can very easily do that now. I can switch to a donut. It's prompting me to configure a group column. So I'm actually going to count and group by properties. And within literally 3 clicks, I've got a donut. So I don't have to, previously I would have had to duplicate the tile, recreate its configuration. Now all I have to do is switch visualization, and off you go, really. We're going to stay, I think, on this same dashboard. We've got a very small change to show you, again, trying to remove a little bit of the frustration with the product. I've got some bar graph here. It's showing me that we've got 37 tickets, which are all about asking us a question, and 37 tickets waiting for us. But why is it showing me a .0? That's not correct. These are number of tickets, so it shouldn't show .0. So what we've done is added a very simple value formatter here. So you'll be able to very quickly, again, select the right format, and now you can display the data the way it should be displayed. So if you're trying to convert milliseconds maybe into seconds, or if you want to maybe convert a currency or anything like that, then you'll be able to do that with the value formatter for the bar graph. And lastly, I want to show you some improvements on some open access settings. So if I go back to, if I go to System, Settings, Open Access, what we've done is, again, from popular demand from all of you, we have given you the ability to set the theme for a given dashboard, or a theme per open access dashboard. So if your open access dashboard maybe is in a room where the lighting is too, depending on the lighting condition, I guess, in a room, or maybe the content of the dashboard, perhaps one dashboard might actually display better in light mode, perhaps another one might be better in dark mode. So we are giving you this granular setting here to let you do that. And that's really a very sneak peek on the main features of 5.5. That isn't all. There are a few more improvements that we haven't talked about that we can't cover today on the demo. But what we will say is, if you check out the release notes, you'll see that we have now a documentation that explains how you can configure WAP support for ADFS single sign-on. We've actually had to do some improvements in the product to make sure that, especially open access dashboards, work well with WAP and ADFS. So do take a look at that documentation if that's something your organization wants to use. We also enable log analytics endpoints for Azure Gov, and I'm going to skip the other ones. Do take a read at the release notes, plenty of things in there. And lastly, some words about SCOM 2022. Very simply, just to say that it works with Squaredup 5.5. So if that's something you're currently looking to upgrade to SCOM 2022, then just be reassured that Squaredup will work with SCOM 2022. There's also a really good blog that we released back in February. It was actually written by my colleague Sean. Do take a read, because Sean essentially summarizes some of the key highlights of SCOM 2022. So it's a good blog to read. And I think that pretty much takes me to the end of 5.5. It is available today. You can head to download.squaredup.com. If you upgrade, so this is a release candidate, so as always, if you do decide to upgrade to the RC, you would get priority support. As always, it supports in-place upgrades, which is what we always recommend anyway. And general availability is due in about 2 weeks' time, mid-May. So yeah, head over to dashboard or download.squaredup.com, and can't wait to hear your feedback. And I'll just finish before we wrap up on 5.5, just a reminder about our community dashboards. We keep receiving contributions from the community, which is amazing. So big thank you to those who've contributed a dashboard to the community, and congratulations as well to our monthly community champions. So bear with us if your dashboard is still not online. If you've made a submission, it's still not online, just bear with us. It will be online shortly. And if you want to get your hands on any of those dashboards, or if you want to contribute one yourself, just head over to dashboards.squaredup.com. And Jason, I think that's it for release 5.5.
So yeah, we are introducing this new capability today. We're calling it EAM-X. So we have our enterprise application monitoring and mapping capability within Squaredup. I know a lot of you are customers of EAM today, and we are adding an X. So what is the X? It's about extending the capability and extending the visibility for SCOM. So go ahead, Vincent, to the next one, please. So SCOM today, I think it is awesome at two things. So it's basically a best-in-class monitoring solution. It's the best at monitoring Windows Server environments, but it's also an extensible monitoring platform that can be used as a single pane of glass across your data center environment, right? And the challenge there is that it does have, here 20 years later with SCOM, it still is best in class for monitoring. There's still no other tool around that can provide such breadth, such depth, and such scale in Microsoft-centric environments, and particularly that Microsoft technology stack, right? Microsoft Active Directory, Hyper-V, Exchange, SharePoint, SQL. But within the IT ecosystem, the applications are growing. There is just a gap of visibility on the broader data center, right? So VMs monitored by VMware. There's a network team. There's visibility within SolarWinds that you're not getting within SCOM. There's Nagios, Kubernetes, and then you have your cloud hosting platforms as well. So that could be within Azure. If you just back up a second there, Vincent. Sorry, my timing's all off. So these blind spots, in fact, become business risks because they put those digital services at risk, which the businesses are relying on. So here's an enterprise application diagram mapped out with Veda. It's inside Squaredup's or EAM tier. So it's drawing the links for the dependencies on the app's web and database resources. But what if the app also relies on hosts monitored by VMware, or maybe it's hosted on Azure? And then you also have deploy pipelines that are happening within maybe your Azure DevOps or your other CI/CD environments, and you want visibility into those. So go ahead, Vincent. So your Veda diagrams are not going to give you the visibility that you need to get that you need. Management packs have stretched SCOM pretty far as a single pane of glass. For example, third-party management packs do exist for tools like VMware, but they're not cheap. And then building them in-house, of course, is another option. Building MPs, then they require authoring skills, which are hard to come by. And then the bigger challenge we're actually seeing with building management packs is that the people with the skills to build them typically lack the engagement with the teams that run and own those tools. People that are running, Azure DevOps or that are responsible for AWS, they're not typically engaged with SCOM, so they're not necessarily motivated to work with the management pack authors to build the MPs necessary to plug into them. So there's all kinds of reasons why SCOM might lack that visibility. Go ahead, Vincent, to the next one if you would. And so a picture of your visibility within SCOM might look a little bit like this, and within Squaredup. Awesome visibility again for that Microsoft stacked, but siloed teams, disconnected status from the tools that they use to manage the other components of that stack. So then on to the next slide, Vincent. What we're proposing today is to bring status from all these tools under one roof, keeping SCOM as that single pane of glass. Go ahead and click, Vincent. And so what we're doing is we're going to patch its blind spots and roll up status into SCOM. And that's the goal, is to basically provide visibility from all those different tools and platforms, roll up status from those tools into SCOM as your single pane of glass. And then the individual teams who manage those tools, the VM team, the network team, the app team, they can use those monitoring tools as they already are, their own monitoring tools, but they can plug those into Squaredup to roll up the status into that centralized view. So then the question is, okay, how are we going to do this without building out a management pack for every one of these tools back to where we started? And so that brings us to what we're introducing today. So as many of you may already know, Squaredup has been working on and is currently building its next gen dashboard platform. We're calling it Squaredup Cloud. At this webinar today, we're talking just a little bit about Squaredup Cloud. We'll have a lot more exciting announcements later, but essentially it's designed independent of SCOM to plug into any data wherever it lives and surface it in one place. And so we're bringing the power of those plugins through Squaredup Cloud into your existing SCOM and Squaredup for SCOM deployment. So go ahead, Vincent, to the next one. What we've done is we've built a custom cloud management pack to be able to plug into our Squaredup Cloud product and roll up status from all of these different tools into SCOM. So I have one slide today on Squaredup Cloud. Again, we're going to be talking about this using Squaredup Cloud for EAM-X, but I do want to give a little bit of background, of course, about Squaredup Cloud. So as I mentioned, we built it to plug into any data wherever it lives. Today we have 40 plus plugins available today for Squaredup Cloud. We have a goal to reach 100 plugins by the end of the year. Go ahead, Vincent. It's designed for both cloud and on-prem data and monitoring solutions. So it's called Squaredup Cloud. It lives in the cloud. But it's designed for both on-prem. I mentioned it's independent of SCOM. On top, it sits on top of a graph-based object model. And in fact, this object model is inspired by SCOM's underlying object model. What we've done is we've built our own object model using graph database technology. And we're plugging it, we're creating that graph database from all the different entities that we discover from those plugins. So it's we also offer custom plugins with PowerShell and JavaScript. And it's fully SaaS. It's hosted in the cloud. So again, we'll share more announcements about Squaredup Cloud over the coming months, but today we're excited to share what it can do when it's integrated into your existing Squaredup and SCOM deployment. And so here's what we have. So with Squaredup Cloud in the extension management pack, you can roll up health for any one of your plugins into SCOM. You can leverage those native cloud integrations to extend SCOM's visibility, and it's plug and play. requiring no changes to your existing Squaredup or your SCOM deployments. So you have all the benefit of those plugins without having to build an MP and in servicing visibility in one place. Yeah, so I think slides are one thing, but I think just seeing it in action is always better. So that's where I'm going to introduce Dave to give us a demo.
Great, thanks, Jason. Yeah, let's get into it. I'll just share my screen.
Hopefully you don't have the same problem I did.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, but there we go. So I'm actually going to start here in Squaredup for SCOM. So if you haven't seen it before, this is Vader. It lets you map out all of your applications within SCOM. So here we've got our sales app. We've mapped out various tiers of that application. So for example, here I've got my web tier. We've discovered 3 web servers there. We've got my application tier and then some databases on the back end. But this app actually has a few missing pieces. So the app actually calls into a AWS microservice responsible for billing. These servers are hosted in our VMware environment, so kind of don't have visibility of that. And then the app itself is deployed with Azure DevOps as well. So we've got those blind spots like Jason mentioned. And like you said, you know, maybe you've tried those third-party management packs, but they're pretty expensive and pretty time-consuming if you're building management packs yourself as well. So let me switch over to Squaredup Cloud here. And within Squaredup Cloud, I've actually dashboarded out this missing data. So for example, here I've got data around that Lambda microservice. I've got the DevOps kind of deployment information, Kubernetes, you know, all of the missing pieces, VMware and so on. And Cloud obviously allows us to kind of connect all of these tools. And it's great that now I've got these dashboards, but what I want to show you is actually how you pull that data back into SCOM. So let me jump back over, back into Squaredup for SCOM. So with EAM-X, we're launching a management pack that connects to Cloud and lets us pull in that status information. So if I jump over here to a different enterprise app and this Cloud version, I'm going to go to the map as well just to see those components. I'll give that a second to load. Come on, SCOM, do your thing. There we go. So I can see I've got that similar kind of looking diagram, but we've also got that microservice down here, and I can see the health of that service coming from Cloud as well. As I mentioned, these servers are deployed in our VMware environment. So I've gone ahead and added a dependency on this VMware platform health. And that's an object that's coming from the Cloud management pack being imported and available for use, obviously, in SCOM and in Squaredup as well. If I drill down to this, you'll get that kind of next level of detail. So I can see actually, you know, there's four tiles and 4 monitors that I've configured. So I can see, yeah, the data centers are healthy, the stores are okay, CPU and memory are all kind of running fine. And if I want more information there, I've got a handy link to kind of jump back into Cloud. So I can jump straight to that dashboard and I can see, yeah, okay, here's the detailed kind of picture of VMware at this point. And I imagine you're kind of wondering at this point how this all works. So the Cloud is a SaaS platform, so we're running up here on app.squaredup.com. And like Jason mentioned, it's built around these plugins. So if I jump over to our settings page here, and I'll just go into our plugin catalog. So there's a bunch of plugins available, different bits and pieces, all the kind of tools you might be familiar with or using across your organization. And it's pretty easy to configure those tools. So take DevOps, for example, I can jump straight through and quickly kind of configure that. So all I need to do is enter a personal access token, an API key, and I'm kind of off to the races, and DevOps data is being pulled in and indexed. And what you're seeing in SCOM is the kind of monitored health. So you can see we've got these kind of health icons configured against tiles. And the tile health rolls up to the dashboard rolls up to the workspace. So obviously very similar to kind of SCOM's object model from that point of view. And in this case, I've just configured a threshold against the tile here to say, you know, if it goes above kind of 5 errors per second, then obviously raise that as a failure. In this case, it's green, so we're all good. If I jump back into Cloud here, alongside the management pack, we're also releasing a dashboard pack. So You've got a few dashboards available just to show you what information is being imported from cloud. So I can see my workspaces, my dashboards, and my tiles as well as some information about what might be causing the issue with any kind of unhealthy tiles. Now, all of these objects you see are just standard SCOM objects, so we can use the power of SCOM to kind of take this even further. So let me jump over to this SLA view. So here we're showing you all of those workspaces, and a workspace might be a team, it might be an individual application or a particular platform. But we can see the current state, the history of those, and then obviously those SLAs as kind of provided by SCOM as well. So using SCOM's aggregation and obviously the data warehouse there to kind of store that state over time. And this is another good example. This is our kind of knock wall board. We've had this dashboard in the SCOM product for a while, but we've now extended it to show both data that's coming from SCOM's kind of monitoring side as well as the cloud side of things. So in one place I can see the status of my alerts and servers monitored by SCOM, but also the relevant apps and services, teams, platforms from cloud as well. So hopefully that's a good taste of what cloud and in particular EAM-X can do. And I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I imagine there'll be some questions and follow up, but I'll hand over to Jason to take over from there. Thanks.
Well, thanks again. I'll try this one more time on my screen share.
See if you can get it working.
Yeah, cool. I think I did. Do you guys see my screen?
Yeah, looking good. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Dave. Cool look. Yeah, so I'll just summarize a bit of what Dave just talked about. So SCOM plus the Squaredup Cloud extension. As you saw, basically extending visibility in SCOM with the 40+ plugins that we have in our cloud SaaS, our cloud hosted our SaaS platform, including the ability to roll up the status and connect that into your existing EAs and Vata diagrams as well. So it is plug and play. Doesn't require any changes to your existing Squaredup or your existing SCOM instance, except for just installing that management pack that Dave talked about. So it's fully integrated with SCOM. That includes, one of the questions was, does it store the status into the SCOM's object model? It does, including roll-ups, alerting, all the SLO reporting that Dave just showed. And it does extend to your EAs and your Vata maps as well. So one of the key points here is to be able to delegate the health rollup to the other teams that are managing those different tools and platforms. They can create their dashboards inside of Squaredup Cloud, like Dave showed. Slightly different Squaredup user interface to the server product interface you guys are using and love today. And they can build their dashboards. They can turn on alerting, and then they can roll up the status from their alerts into SCOM through that management pack. So we're announcing this today. We're calling it EAM-X, as I mentioned at the beginning. So it's our extension to our EAM. It's a paid extension. It's a new tier that we're offering for Squaredup. And what I'll do now is I'm actually going to try to gauge those of you that are interested to maybe give it a shot. If you have tools in mind that you want to plug into Squaredup and surface into SCOM, then we're going to maybe offer a proof of concept, and I'll just kick off a poll to see who's interested. This is a way for us to capture. So put in my polls. And if you don't mind, I'll just launch that real quick. It's going to ask, would you like to try EAM-X with the goal then, of course, to unlock visibility using those 40+ plugins. So if it's something that's maybe not relevant for you, or you have all the visibility you need, that's cool. Something that you might want to check out, but now's not the time. Or if it seems like you do have tools that you've just been wanting to roll up, or you've been wanting to work with different teams for quite a while and get their status into SCOM, now's a great time to try it out. So let that go. Cool. So thank you all that have participated in that. I'll close that out. And my screen's going to flake out, but I think at this time, it's a pretty quick webinar. We covered a lot. We covered two big topics, 5.5 and our EAM-X in just about a half an hour. We'll open it up to questions. I see plenty of them are already coming in. So maybe Dave and Vincent, if you guys want to pop back on with your cameras or mics, or if you guys have any of those that you want to answer kind of over the...
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Jason. I saw one of the questions here around Site 24/7. Thanks for that. There's obviously lots of different tools out there. Organisations using all sorts of stuff. We've got a very long list, and we'll obviously add in any of those suggestions. So definitely on our backlog, and we're adding new plugins kind of every week. So there's kind of, I think there's around 40 plus, I want to say, at the moment. But yeah, stay tuned for further updates on that front.
Cool, that's great. A lot of you raised your hands, saying that you're keen to check this out. So yeah, I think what we're excited to see is what are the top tools you're looking to plug in. And by the way, if you don't mind, do feel free to throw those into the chat or the questions as well. Just interesting discussion always to see what are those blind spots. In the ones that we use as examples of those, the ones that resonate from the data center, from the dev side as well.
Another pretty cool question just came in around on-premise tools. Obviously, as we talked about, Squaredup Cloud is a SaaS platform, so that runs up in the cloud. But we do have an on-premise relay to help you kind of talk to those on-prem tools. So that's a small Windows service you run locally, and then can talk to environments like VMware, SolarWinds, Nagios that are obviously running within your isolated networks. So yeah, yes is the answer to that one.
Yeah, cool. Someone we've been working with closely is one of our dev partners, Ash. Thank you for that comment as well. He said it's also worth mentioning that you can write your own plugins, and that our team's here to help you do that as well. So yeah, I talked a lot about the 40 plus we have. We're adding them pretty quickly. That number was 30 plus just a week or two ago. But we're always going to find new tools that customers are using that maybe we don't have a plugin for, and you can write your own, and we'd love to help you do that as well. Thanks, Ash.
A couple of questions just around what data exactly we're pulling into SCOM. So I'm going to answer a couple of these together. The first one is how often is the health status transferred to SCOM? That's completely configurable. So I think the default is every few minutes, but you could set that to higher or lower, kind of as per your needs. And the data we're pulling today is the health state, so those workspaces, dashboards and tiles where you've configured monitoring and set those thresholds within Squaredup Cloud. We'll pull those health states back in, and it's all about roll up, right? So we're not pulling, for example, performance data and so on today. It is just those health states. Obviously, if you want to dive deeper, then we give you that link kind of out back into Squaredup Cloud to interrogate, the particular metric or data that's available behind that health. That isn't to say we won't ever do that. There's a feature we're exploring around KPIs where you kind of indicate to us that a particular metric or a particular value is important to you, and you do want to kind of monitor that more closely. And that's perhaps where we'd start to pull those values in down to SCOM, so you can report and aggregate on with SLAs and all the good stuff that SCOM provides. So yeah, thanks for those questions. That's some good detail there.
Yeah, cool. Mark had asked a question about storing this metrics from the different tools into Squaredup and into SCOM, I should say. He said not just the red, amber, green, but also the actual values. So in the cloud product, we'll have a concept called KPIs that you'll be able to track and store metrics over time. For now, what we're doing is we're just offering the ability to surface status of those. So it is a bit of what you saw, the red, amber, green into SCOM, but we can explore more of that in the future as well.
Brilliant question there. How do you get your hands on the management pack? That's what we want to hear. The answer is join us at an onboarding call. So anyone that's kind of indicated they're keen to get signed up, we'll reach out to following this webinar, and we can set some time up to figure out what that looks like and go from there. Yeah.
Phil asked where we can see a list of current plugins. Happy to send that out to you, Phil. We have the list is ever growing right now. So if you're curious if what you have is on that list, do reach out to us. And if you already raised your hand with my poll, then we'll reach out to you as well, and we'll see if we have it. But yeah, happy to send a list of what we have.
Yeah, we certainly like to trade list as well, understand what tools you're using, and that would help us obviously prioritize what plugins we're going to create. The plan around those plugins actually would be to open source them, so anybody can kind of contribute to those plugins, add new ones and build custom ones out. We're not quite at that point yet, but that's definitely on the roadmap.
couple more questions there, Dave. I'm not sure if you can answer. Can you explain how the relay works with the on-prem technologies?
Yeah, so it's a Windows service that runs locally. You deploy that in your environment. So some of the early access partners that we've been working with, deploy it onto a management server or something like that. That connects up to our cloud environment, so it needs kind of outbound access to app.squaredup.com. But once that connection is established, the relay agent can then talk to local sources, like the vCenter server that's running locally or SolarWinds. And it's important to note we don't store metrics or alerts or any of the kind of performance data. What we do is kind of index the entities. So take VMware, for example, we'll take a catalog list of the data center, the data stores, the actual VMs that are there, and just kind of a few key properties like their name, their IP address, and so on. But when you're viewing the dashboards and so on, we're streaming that data on demand, so we're not storing any metrics or performance data. So doing it slightly differently to perhaps other approaches.
Cool.
Just having a flick through. Not missed any
questions. Are there plans to make the dashboards active, meaning you're able to execute like an action or an automation or a runbook against them? And yeah, that is something we're looking at, which is incorporating some automation into our analytics and visibility. For the time being, we are focused on the data visibility, the analytics, the power of, and by the way, I'm answering the question now in the context of Squaredup Cloud. I'm not sure you're probably thinking about it in terms of the SCOM product as well. But in both cases, we're examining some options there.
Good question there around where you configure that monitoring. So you probably saw those little kind of health state circles within the cloud product. That configuration is done in cloud, and the idea there, right, is let the people who know those tools, who are familiar with VMware or Azure or whatever it is, to do that configuration, but then flow the kind of resultant health back into SCOM and your single pane of glass for reporting that status. So yeah, done in cloud, but flowing that status back to Squaredup and Squaredup for SCOM.
Cool. Cool. Starting to slow down. Anything we missed in here? I think we got them. So there's a couple of actions that we'll follow up on. So we do have several of you that raised your hands, so we'll follow up. We'd love to get meetings booked. And yeah, the first questions we're going to be asking is kind of the inverse of the ones that you're asking. You ask what plugins are available. We'll be asking, what do you want to plug in? And for the plugins that we have right out of the box, we can just basically get you set up in our Squaredup Cloud, get those plugins configured, and then get the management pack set up, and hopefully hit the ground running pretty quickly. So we'll start scheduling these meetings right away. And then same thing with 5.5. Do go check out downloads at squaredup.com and get your hands on 5.5. But if that's it for questions, maybe now's a good place to wrap up. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's been a good one, a lot of good questions, and we look forward to the next time. Thank you all.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody.